Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome on to the Patriots Touchback Podcast. A game a bridge too far. The New England Patriots ran out of real estate, ran out of road, and unfortunately it was not to be. Here we are on episode 56 of season 3, and we are here to dissect a poor defeat, 29-13 to the Seattle Seahawks. We'll try and keep this as cheery as we possibly can, but we're going to have a lot of conversations tonight regarding what happened in the game and so on. It was just poor. It was a poor performance on one side of the ball, at least anyway. But congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. They thoroughly deserve to win that game. No referee controversy, no bullshit, no officiating problems. The Pats were just simply and utterly beaten in that game. I got Nick and I got Kieren on board with me tonight. Before we get cracking, please make sure that you smash the like button, you gronk spike the subscribe button, you tell all your friends, you follow us on social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and on Apple as well. And a big shout out to the UK Patriots fan club for their little event that they put on last night. It was a fantastic event I went to. So credit to all you guys. Sadly, the result didn't go the way we wanted, but it is what it is. And sometimes when you run out of real estate, that's the way how it goes. Nick, Kez, how are we doing after yesterday's result?
Tired.
I'm not downbeat. I'm disappointed because obviously it is what it is. But I'm trying to sort of see all the positives. I'm trying to, silver lining and all that. So yes, I'm disappointed, but I'm not downtrodden and downbeat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I got to a point where probably after the first couple of playoff games where it's kind of like, it is absolutely insane that we are here right now, considering what the last couple of years have been like and what the expectations were coming into the season. And I said on our previous show on Friday that I had no issues if Seattle won the game because the fact we're even in this place is just incredible. So yes, it's disappointing that we got right to the very last hurdle and fell at the final hurdle and didn't quite manage to go all the way and complete what would have been an absolute fairy tale season. But the fact that we made the Super Bowl completely against the odds, against all expectation, you've got to be pleased and proud with the progress we've made over the last year. And I think ultimately that's more important. So yeah, we can be disappointed, but it was still one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had our floor set at 6. Our ceiling, I think I had at 11, and I was hovering around the 8-9 win mark in preseason. And then obviously, as you start going through, you start seeing a bit. Because I was always of the belief, let's walk before we can run. First year, we've just gone 2 seasons with 4 wins. Let's just take a step forward and then kick on. And we've just been, it was, a massive few leaps forward. And, you can look back at it and you can say, well, had Stroud not shit the bed, then maybe Houston would have beaten us. If the weather hadn't have come in, then certainly Denver would have probably beaten us. And, if but maybe. But the fact is we were there and most of the team chose that day to have a bad game. And it happens. So, you pick yourself up, you move on, and you go again.
I'm in one of two minds, as I said this on the group chat, and that was a case of I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed in that we lost the game because we was the underdogs going into this game anyway. It was the way how we lost that game. The poor offensive line, Drake Maye getting shell shocked every single time the sack or a hit kept coming his way. The fact that none of our receivers could get bloody open if our lives depended on it. None of the tight ends could get open. It was just that Josh McDaniels was some of the most vanilla, conservative play calling I have seen in the Super Bowl in a very, very long time. That's what annoyed me more than anything. I agree. I mean, my ceiling was at 12 wins due to what the schedule looked like. But making it to the Super Bowl is no easy feat. We've got there because it's hard work, it's dedication, and it's perseverance. And the New England have got there because of that. People want to make excuses about our easy schedule. Cool. Then I'll be coming in with the same sort of energy for the Browns, the Saints, and the Bengals next season because that's the top 3 in the NFL that have the top 3 easiest schedule. So let's just see how they pan out with that one then, shall we? Because apparently we only got here because the easy schedule. So let's see, shall we?
I think there maybe is an element of overachieving. We did go a lot further than what we expected, and okay, people are going to always use the soft schedule argument, but I think if you look at us as a team, what Mike Vrabel has managed to do is at least give us a foundation with a pretty damn good defense that kept us in the vast majority of that game. And we're close. We're just not quite there yet. And I think it is testament to the outstanding coaching job that he has done and the staff have done this season to eke every single ounce of ability and every single ounce of performance out of that team to get us to a Super Bowl. And, it's not going to take much more on top of that, really, for us to keep progressing. It's such a difficult one because you're disappointed that you come this far, and the longer it goes on, because winning is a habit, momentum is an absolutely incredible thing, and you feel like you can take on the world. There's 2 case in points here, like Leicester City winning the Premier League. They just got on a massive run of form, and the momentum just kept going and going and going, and the belief set in. They were confident. And then the other one is probably Emma Raducanu, right? Winning the US Open at 18 years old, didn't drop a set the entire tournament. She's done absolutely shit all since. But she was just on an unbelievable
He's not wrong, Nick.
run. Yeah.
No, he's not. I don't disagree with him. It's just I didn't expect him to say it.
Yeah. But the momentum that she had and the belief she had and the confidence and that winning habit carried her through that tournament, and she won a Grand Slam. And now, even if she continues to do nothing for the rest of her career, she's got a Grand Slam. She's won a major tournament in the US Open. So it's one of them where we kept winning and winning and winning, and then the belief starts to set in. I think ultimately that then translates and starts to embody with the fan base, and then the expectation comes in. It's like, we could potentially go all the way here, and we fell just short. But still, the fact that we're in this position is incredible. And if anything, the one thing you could probably criticize about us right now is maybe we've advanced too quickly. Have we put ourselves in a position now where we've progressed way too quick, way ahead of schedule, to now where, yes, we've got to do some work. There's going to be stuff that we need to do with the offense in the off season, with the O-line and other positions like that. But we're now in a position where we're picking 31st in the draft. The fact we've advanced and gone to a Super Bowl could actually be a detriment over the next couple of years, because we're not going to put ourselves in a position to acquire high-end talent because we've overachieved, and we'll see how that goes. But that could be a factor.
No, you're right. And I think, we had, there was voice messages and voice chats going in our group chat earlier. And, saying that, well, we need this or we need this. The problem is you can't get everything in one draft, and if you need an elite player in two positions, you've got to make a call. And if you think about it, picking at the end of the first round, all right, maybe your first choice elite player has gone and your second one might still be there. He ain't going to be there at the end of the second. So you're then, you're really struggling. And I think, that's sort of like the other side of unexpected success. And maybe, and that goes back to the fact that, you're running before you can walk. But, a wise man once said defense win championships. And my, oh my, fair play to the Seahawks, because their defense was absolutely balls out blazing.
I think we should move into the game, even though it's rather a sore subject to talk about. Let's start with we've got to start with Drake. We have to. 27 of 43, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, passer rating of just over 79. But I will just say this, 235 yards of that were in the fourth quarter when the game was pretty much dead and fucking buried. So if you want context, there's your context. 60 yards in 3 quarters. We're not in snow. But Seattle's front four never allowed us to settle. Never allowed us to get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever.
I think it's unfortunate you say we start with Dre, because I think really what we should probably do is start with the O-line, because it was the O-line's ineffective ability to stop the Seattle defense that caused Drake Maye to have so many problems. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, in summary, you look at the stats. Drake Maye's stats aren't that far off, Sam Darnold's. But like you said, a lot of those came in the fourth quarter. So, I think I don't blame Drake. I don't blame any particular player. I think like I said, I think so many players just took the same day to have a shitter. Simple as.
So Will Campbell did not have the greatest of games. He really did not. It's basically all right, but this goes further down the rabbit hole. Okay, Super Bowl 60 was basically welcome to hell for the Patriots O-line. Will Campbell gave up career 14 high pressures, 26.9%, tied for the most by any offensive lineman in a playoff game since 2018. He finished the whole postseason with 29 pressures, which is most according to Next Gen Stats, over half his regular season total, which was 51. That's not one bad night. That's the Seahawks front turning every drop back into a fire drill. 52.8% pressure rate, highest in Next Gen Stats since the Super Bowl era. Maye at minus 0.44 EPA drop back, worse than the Super Bowl since 2016. 6 sacks, 3 turnovers, and a pick 6. And the kicker? 0 explosive design runs. For the 7th time, Seattle's done that this year. They just don't. Seattle didn't beat us. They deleted us.
They did. Like, they were able to dictate on the defensive side of the ball exactly how they wanted, and they would just stayed in what they run more than anything, their base defense, which is a 4-man rush and sit in a zone, play quarters, and that's exactly what they did the entire game. They knew that if they could execute their game plan, they wouldn't have to deviate away from anything that they're not used to running. They can just sit in their base formation, and it was effective. I mean, we shouldn't be getting bullied as much as we did with just a 4-man rush. Like, that's practically what they were doing the entire game, which is a real concern. One thing I think Seattle did really well was they seemed to be able to be one step ahead of us in terms of when Drake was changing the protection and getting the line to slide one way, and they were then sending the pressure the other way. Witherspoon came on a couple of big time blitzes off the edge. Come up with a couple of big plays. And corner blitzes are fantastic, right? Because like when it comes off of the corner, like it looks amazing, and like they get in the backfield so quickly. But it's one of them where if you get the ball out quick, you can exploit the spacing behind them very easily, because it is a risky play. But yeah, Seattle just did exactly what they needed to do on the game plan. I thought they game planned and schemed it up perfectly. I thought Mike McDonald called an excellent game, completely outcoached Josh McDaniels. And we had to go one-dimensional, and the line handicapped us, unfortunately, and we had no answer for it. And that just completely frazzled Drake's mind, unfortunately. He was holding the ball too long. He missed some throws. He made some bad decisions and didn't take the easy gains. It was just an all-round bad night. But I don't think it's a case of you point the finger at one specific thing. It was a collective failure. Like, the quarterback didn't play well, the offensive line didn't play well, and the play caller didn't call a good game. Like, those three things as a collective were a huge reason why we struggled so badly on offense. Obviously, we had to abandon the run game as a result. And yeah, we were just limited. And it became obvious that unless we were going to force a turnover on the defensive side of the ball, and get a pick six or a fumble recovery to swing the momentum, then it was obvious that we weren't going to get back into it at any point.
So the news that came out today, or I don't think it's been confirmed by the Patriots yet, but it seems to be on many media outlets, is that Will Campbell's now to have knee surgery.
Oh, surprise.
So, this is obviously related to his injury he picked up in week 11, 12? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, it was his MCL.
So, yeah. So, obviously, he's come back, not fully fit, played as far as the Patriots have got, and he now needs knee surgery. I'm not trying to find an excuse for him. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm just wondering whether, as that comes out now, if he's not fully fit, that's probably why most of his play since he's come back hasn't been at the level that it was before he got injured. I'm not saying that, that makes it okay, but it's a few more pieces to the jigsaw puzzle. If he wasn't fully fit when he returned, that's an understanding. You can start to understand why his stats have been so down since he's come back. I mean, again, Drake Maye needed a painkilling injection in his shoulder. Now, it didn't look to affect him, but the only person who knows whether it really did affect him is Drake himself and maybe Josh. So, again, there's two pieces of news that came out today that can maybe not fully exonerate, people, but just adds a little bit of context to what we've seen, not just yesterday, but over the last sort of 4 weeks in Campbell, 4 weeks in Campbell's case. So, it's unfortunate that Cam Wilson, who is naturally a centre, has played left guard next to another rookie, and that has been our weak side. But, it is what it is. And yeah.
I find the Campbell situation very, very confusing to say the least. But also, I think context is important as well. So how did he struggle last night? Anchor was a huge problem last night. He got driven back so much. Now, a lot of tackles have come out and said, like former tackles and current tackles that would jump into his defense last night, saying, it looks like it could be a technique issue. Is he trying to attack too vertical? Is he just, trying to, like, is his hand work wrong? Is his feet just too slow? Like, is it coachable issues that you can rectify in the off season? One thing he definitely needs to do is get in the weight room. Like, I think it was Mike Renner said that the problem is that it's not the arm length that's necessarily showing up on tape. It's the fact that his overall frame is smaller than the typical tackle. He doesn't have the power to hold up when he's anchoring, and ball rushes are just going absolutely through him like a knife through butter at times. Now, yeah, okay, if it's a knee problem that's still stemming from the injury in week 11 or whenever it was, and he's now having surgery, you'd like to think that if that's cleared up, then maybe he's going to get a bit more strength and stability in his knee, which will help his anchoring going into next season. But he definitely needs to bulk up and get stronger, because I certainly don't think he's a bad player. I think there was enough of a sample size throughout the regular season to suggest that he can hold up at tackle. And of course, it's overreaction city at the moment to he's a guard, he's a guard, he's a guard, he's a guard. This guy's not a tackle, he's a guard. Like, I think it's just typical emotions, like getting the better of people. And it's just like everyone wants to have a take on it afterwards. I think for me, I think Wilson being at left guard is more of a problem. I think Nick's right. I think he's a centre, and I think his deficiencies have showed as a guard. The trouble is if they go, okay, Will, we view you as a guard going for you. You're kicking inside next season. So not only have you wasted the 4th overall pick on a guard, but you're now in a position where you can't get a left tackle because we are now picking 31st in the draft. So you're not going to get any of the premier left tackles that are going to be available in this class. And you look at the free agency pool, and I think the only tackle available that would be even somewhat competent would be Rashid Walker, who's just come from the Packers. Is that your long-term option? I don't think it is. So you're not in a position to really go out and get another left tackle. There isn't one available. You're not in a position unless you swing a trade, and teams are not going to be willing to trade a starting caliber left tackle. So you've got to persist with him. I personally am of the belief that I would like to see us go out and get a veteran left guard, someone who's proven in the league, perhaps a former Pro Bowler, someone who's been solid, dependable, a bit like an equivalent of Morgan Moses, right? Someone that can maybe, hold things together on that left side. So we've not got 2 youngsters playing on that side. In the group chat earlier, I said to you guys, it's like in football when a young centre half needs a veteran presence alongside him to help talk him through the game. So having someone on that left side, so you've not got 2 kids that can maybe help Campbell from a communication perspective, and someone that's not going to be as much of a liability in one-on-one pass protection than Wilson is, I think that could then elevate the play of Campbell. I looked at the 2 top free agent guards. For the left side, you've got Joel Bitonio from the Browns, multiple-time Pro Bowler, excellent, experienced, strong guard, and then Isaac Seumalo from the Steelers, obviously been with the Eagles before. I think if you plug in one of those 2 guys alongside Will Campbell next season, you get an uptick in performance. But we absolutely cannot give up on him after 1 year because there is no other legitimate option, and we're just going to end up having another turnstile at left tackle next year with a player that's quite clearly not NFL caliber. And I still think there's enough sample size from Will Campbell to suggest he can be a decent tackle.
What about David Edwards?
I was going to say he was on my list as well.
Yeah, David Edwards would be fine. Experienced guard, played on the Bills, solid. Someone like him would be perfectly serviceable. I think that's what they need to look at, because I just don't see what you gain from putting Will Campbell at guard, because I think you leave yourself with a huge void on the left-hand side and no ability to be able to do anything about it. Yeah. I mean, look, I also said in the chat earlier, guys, that Garrett Bowles with the Broncos had a really bad first couple of years. Fans were calling for him to be cut. All kinds of stuff, needed to be traded, cut. This guy's a bust, left, right, and centre, getting abuse. And now he's an all-pro. He took time to develop. Campbell could be exactly the same. We don't know. Campbell might end up playing guard in the future. But to say that he needs to be binned off and moved inside after a year is just a huge overreaction for me.
So the tweet basically I just put up on the screen, I've took it down now. It's basically his name's William Anderson. He's a lineman. He's a offensive lineman coach for an academy. He's basically turned around and said that Will has a technique issue. Short arms don't help with the technique. He has to first master better sets versus different alignment. he said he's watched 4 games this year, and you can tell he's worried, so he's overcompensating. He has to learn this offseason to say, fuck it, and I can block this guy with perfect sets. He plays with that college that college BS of vertical setting. 90% of the time, that's going to get you worn out in this league. He's also a floater. So when he's square and stops, he actually does a real solid job. He needs to be faster with his hands, maybe use high hand, low hand, or his technique, the club in quotation marks. Need to have a look at what is the club technique when it comes to offensive linemen. He said that would fit in perfectly. But then first things first, he has to go out and have to he's got to bulk up. He's got to be stronger for his upper body, because you could be quick and agile with your feet, but if you haven't got the strength to push off and so on, it's going to be problematic. Nick, just to let you know, mate, your screen has decided to froze up on yourself.
I know. I'm just going to persist with it without a screen because I couldn't get back on yet last week. So
you're basically doing what Kid Rock did last night and lip sync. Is that what you?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm just going to rock it as it is. So
okay. We've got a couple of comments here. Big up to KLS here. Good evening, gents. Drake will have to take his lumps and live with this performance, but did McDaniels try anything to help him or the line in the first half? I don't think so as well. I don't think so. And Douglas put Drake had an injection in his shoulder before the games. That's why the play calling was a bit vanilla, I think. I would say we should just come out and say, yeah, he has a problem with his shoulder, and at least then we can understand, give the reason why he was poor. But even so, I
just think Josh got out-coached. And that's not to say he's a bad coach. He won Assistant of the Year. He's a fantastic coordinator and a fantastic coach, but I just think he got outdone. We saw Belichick. It happened to Belichick a couple of times. Mike McDonald just called the perfect game, and they schemed up perfectly to exploit our vulnerabilities and get after us. And a couple of the players for Seattle came out after the game and said, we knew that if we executed our game plan, that we would cause them a lot of problems, and they did. So I think you just have to give credit to them for scheming that up. But I just wish that Josh would have been a little bit more adventurous. We looked better when we went up tempo, and we were trying to throw in a little bit of no huddle. But it was just far too vanilla, far too predictable. But that's not, that's not all on Josh, because Drake made some poor decisions, taking the wrong read. I said to you, Karl, at one point on the throw over the middle where he tried to zing it into Booty, he had Ramondre Stevenson for like a 4 or 5 yard gain on 3rd and 1. Just take the check down, move the chains and start again. Getting a first down there, even if it's a couple of yard gain, is better than us punting. So, I just think all round it was just a collective failure from the offense.
There were times when he had a pass on and he threw it, but it was it was either underthrown or behind. I think one was behind Hunter Henry when Hunter Henry was open. And so even when he did have the pass on, he wasn't accurate with where he was throwing it anyway. Now, that might be because he was rushed. That might be because he was expecting pressure when it wasn't coming, and I just... Again, I go back to the point I made. This isn't just down to one person or one coach. It's a collective group thing that everyone just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
The only lineman who actually played any half decent was Michael Nwenu. Yeah, it's even Moses and Bradbury got found out in this game. As you said, it's a collection of all along. Our eight drives all ended in punts. 8 straight drives ended in punts before the fumble happened. And that was when then they got the touchdown, and that was pretty much, it was all she wrote. But at that point, you've got to think this. I'm watching this game, and I'm sitting there at halftime, and when you spoke about this, Kieren, where in that second half, New England have got to start sustaining drives. Otherwise, as it gets to the latters in the game, and the defense and the down on the defense is going to break.
Yeah, I mean, we've not spoken about them much yet, but I thought our defense were tremendous for the large majority of the game. They weren't perfect. Seattle were able to get their running game going to their advantage in the sense that they knew they couldn't run straight up the middle on us. So they were getting Kenneth Walker on outside zones and bouncing him to the outside and on counter plays to try and exploit us. We weren't great at setting the edge, but I think overall, defensively to keep us in the game for as long as they did was impressive. I think if you just said going into the game that you'd hold JSN to 4 catches for 27 yards and you'd only give up 1 offensive touchdown, you probably think, oh, we might have won the game. But yeah, excellent defense for the most part. You could see like how disappointed they were when the fumble happened, like because they were just playing their tails off. Like Christian Gonzalez made himself like a lot more money in that game. He was excellent. The only knock on Gonzo was the fact that he probably should have picked Darnold off on the goal line.
The second one.
Yeah.
His second pass breakup. That first one, though, where he was running outside, cut underneath and jumped in front and got a hand to it, right? That was reminiscent of Donnarumma hours earlier in the Liverpool game.
I was going
it out of nowhere.
I was going to say Manuel Neuer because he is the better goalkeeper, but I digress. But that was exactly what I said. I said that in the pub. I was like, that was a prototypical goalkeeper soccer. We'll use the right terminology to use this here.
I think Dougie makes a good point. There was definitely some opportunities for interceptions in this game, and we just couldn't quite get our hands on them. There was a Gonzo one, and there was a couple early in the game as well. I think for me, the biggest frustration with what is the kind of the missed moments on defense was the fact that we should have had more than 1 sack. We could have had at least 5 sacks in this game. And I said to you guys in the group chat, is Darnold covered himself in lube before the game because we were just slipping off him. Like the amount of times we had him in the backfield and we were letting him wriggle free or we were just sliding off him. And you think, if we finish those tackles, we're forcing Seattle to punt again. And, we were generating pressure. And I know everyone wants to say that New England doesn't have a fantastic pass rush. But if we were to come away from this game with 5 sacks, you think that wasn't the problem. We got a lot of pressure on them in this game. And we caused them a lot of problems on the defensive side of the ball. It just so happened that they were able to find the odd moment here and there. And realistically, Darnold didn't do much in the game. He didn't need to. He just was a facilitator. And he played that role really well. But Seattle found the plays when they needed them. We couldn't do that. Both defenses were excellent. Theirs was obviously much, much better and much more effective because it won them the game. But we could have made that way more competitive than what the scoreline ended up being. And I still think that, overall, you look at that and think, Jesus Christ, 29-13 when they only scored 1 offensive touchdown. But that's because their defense hounded us. And if we were able to finish off these moments where we got pressure, then I don't think they're getting anywhere close to that amount of points. And it probably would have been the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. But ultimately, the defense tired in the end. They were on the field a lot. The offense weren't giving them anything, and they could only hold up so long. So I think you could look at that and say, okay, could have had some picks, could have had a few more sacks, but overall, excellent defensive performance. And them guys can hold their heads high, but the offense let them down. Really did let them down.
Yeah, I don't think the 29 points that Seattle scored does our defense and defense as much justice as they deserve. I think they played better than the Seattle score says they did.
Yeah, the defense didn't deserve to be on the losing side, not on our side of things. I think the one shout we have to give, though, is to our draft was pretty good, shall we say. I think we had a very, very good, solid draft. Craig Woodson in the 4th round was an absolute freaking steal because that was what a performance he put in. And what a performance Craig Woodson has actually put in for the whole of the postseason. He's been phenomenal. Absolute
I think you could argue if you'd done like a post-season team of the year or kind of Pro Bowl equivalent vote that he might be in it. Like he's legitimately been awesome, which is great, and he's continued to get better. So yeah, that was great. I mean, the whole secondary was fine in this game. Like you held the best receiver in the game to 4 for 27. And yeah, I know that he did spend time in the medical tent and went in the locker room for a little while, but still overall, you didn't really give up much through the air. Darnold, as I said, just had to play as a facilitator. He really didn't have to do much. He just took what was given to him and did that well. But Seattle won in a very classic way. Like they knew their defense had the better of us. And they just played defense and ran the football. And that's sometimes what you've got to do in big games and not have to put the game in your quarterback's hands. And they done that perfectly. Like, you know, I saw a Houston Texans fan earlier on, like was being very, very chirpy about this game, you know, saying that both us and Denver won't make the playoffs next year. Both quarterbacks are terrible. All that. So you've got CJ Stroud, mate. Have a day off. But like Houston can look at that Seattle performance in the Super Bowl and go, do you know what? If we can just run the ball with a really good running back next year, we might not need CJ Stroud to do much at all, and we could still go really far because they've got the defense. If you can run the ball and play defense, you don't really need your quarterback to do much because Darnold didn't do a lot, you know. And
Kenneth Walker's a free agent. He's just got a Super Bowl MVP to his name. I bet he's added a few more zeros to his.
But remember the Seahawks got like 73 million in cap space. So they're going to re-sign him. It's not going to be.
It's a weird one with Kenny Walker because like I know a Seattle fan. I was actually watching the game with him last night, and he was saying to me like a few weeks ago, he was like, they'll probably let Kenny Walker go in the offseason because he's had a lot of durability issues. He's been really inconsistent. You know, Charbonnet had arguably been the more productive back in spells this season. And ultimately, you don't want to pay running backs too much anyway on a second contract, especially one that's had durability concerns. And they've gone from probably he's an absolute certainty to hit the market to there's absolutely no chance they're letting him hit the market. And that's happened over the course of, 8 weeks? It's incredible.
Dougie's put how many of our rookies hit the rookie wall? Our rookies have played a lot of snaps this year. Will Campbell has. Henderson definitely has. The kid's got no vision. He's got a lot of work to do in the off season to try and because, you know, he either goes for 2 yards or he goes for freaking 25 yards. There's no in between with Trayvon Henderson. He's got to be better next season. My eyes are going to be firmly on him for next season. Jared Wilson, everyone knows he's a center. We only put him at guard because we've got Garrett Bradbury, and I think that's going to be when we see Jared Wilson move into center. That's going to be a given. Andy Borregales didn't do anything particularly wrong. He kicked a field goal.
Solid. Yeah, you're not going to say that you need a new kicker next year. Like he's fine. You just stick with him for the time being. You know, if hopefully he can improve. I think with Henderson, you know, obviously he's shown flashes and had some big games and whatnot, but like, yeah, the vision is a bit of a concern. But I think in his limited exposure last night looked pretty good in what he got. I think the thing for me is they've just got to stop running him up the gut on draw plays. Like you're just completely negating his ability when you are asking an undersized back to run between the tackles. Like just. I think a lot of that you've got to put on Josh to say, if you're going to use Travion, you don't call plays like that. You know, that's where you want Ramondre Stevenson. You don't want to feed Henderson to the wolves. If he struggles to see holes opening up and he struggles between the tackles, don't fucking run him between the tackles then.
Like, that's probably why then, obviously, his role got advanced stuff because obviously Antonio Gibson tore his ACL, didn't he? If Gibson was played, he would be your second. It would be your second down back, and Trayvon Henderson will be the third down catching back.
I mean, but last night was the most Trayvon Henderson had been involved in the passing game for ages. Like they don't have really used him a lot in the passing game, but like yeah, running back is the least of our concern going into next season. I think them two have more than proven that they can be all right. But like in this game in particular, they were just nullified because we couldn't run the ball because we needed to get going and we were behind. I don't necessarily like. I know there was a comment about the interceptions. I've got no issues with the interceptions whatsoever, right? Because they were saying it on the coverage of the game. The commentators were saying it as well. At some point, the shackles had to come off, and Drake just had to let it loose. Like, we're trailing in a game. You've got nothing going the whole game. You've got to start taking shots down the field. And if you get picked off, you get picked off. Like, you've got to make something happen. Now, of course, he had the pick to Julian Love, but then he had the touchdown pass to Matt Collins. The interception that was returned, like, that was just a complete blown, like, blocking assignment. He got absolutely lit up and ended up, that just so happened that he tried to throw it up and it ended up falling in the hands of Uchenna Nwosu, and they took it back. I don't want to bury him for either of those interceptions. The fumble's worse, but it was inevitable that he was going to turn the ball over at some point because we had to try and just sling the rock to try and make something happen.
The problem is, though, I can understand that, but it was still 8 minutes and change left in the fourth quarter. At that point, you're still only down by 12. You didn't need to take. I know you got to take shots, but you didn't have to go deep like that. There was still time on the clock in order for the clock management. Then the things with Drake Maye in that game, his timing clock got sped up in his head, so he's getting caught under pressure by this front four. And okay, I was like, right, okay, you could take shots, but don't try and have to go deep. We're not in that. If it was in a 2-minute drill in that final 2 minutes, we were down by 5. Fuck it, go for it. And if it gets intercepted, that was the Hail Mary shot we could have gone for. But there was still 8 minutes and change left in the fourth quarter. So sorry, Kez, but I'm afraid I have to disagree with you on the second interception. Yeah, that was just picked off by Russo. But the first one, it was no need. Even Chris Collinsworth said on the commentary, he goes, "I've got no answer for why he done that," and he has an answer for everything.
I mean, it was a poor decision to make that throw. I'll give you that. I just don't disagree, with letting it go down the field. Like whether he should have made that particular throw or not, that particular read is debatable. And it was a pretty simple interception for Julian Love. I've got no issues with them trying to push the ball down the field to try and score. Because if we'd have scored on that and put it back to within, what would it have been, 5 points?
5 points, yeah. Maybe 4 if we'd gone for 2.
Like, our defense was still able to get stops at that point. Like, we'd have given ourselves a little bit of life. The confidence would have gone up. The momentum, you'd have think, oh, maybe the momentum's swinging towards New England again. But, I got no issues with us trying to get aggressive because there was no point. If we'd have just played vanilla for the rest of the quarter and end up petering out, you'd just think, bloody hell, this is we haven't laid a glove on them since the touchdown. So I don't necessarily disagree with that decision.
Something you said earlier, Karl, on chat, while we're talking about the passing game, was Stefon Diggs. If we were to cut, because you were saying on chat about number 1.
His misdemeanor. He's got a misdemeanor coming up in March, hasn't he? Court date in March.
If we were to cut him, we would save $16.8 million on the salary cap.
That goes to someone like maybe AJ Brown.
I don't know whether I can get behind AJ Brown though.
No, I don't know either. As I said, as I said in the chat, you need an alpha dog. Diggs ain't that anymore. You need an alpha dog. Unless there's someone in the draft who you think, he's going to be our bona fide number 1. Whether that's someone like RC Concepcion or that's Chris Brazzle the 3rd or 2nd. I can't remember. Help me out with that. Second, thank you. Unless it's one of those.
But again, that means spending your number 1 pick. That means spending your number 1 pick at the end of the round on a wide receiver. Now, I guarantee you, based on every simulation I have done for the past however many months, I guarantee you the only wide receiver with a first-round grade who will be available at the end of the first round is Chris Bell. And the reason he is he tore his ACL in January. So he's no good for a year as it is. So even if you take him in the first round, you haven't got him until the 2027 season anyway. So there'll be no other wide receiver available at the end of the first round. So it's pointless taking Bell. And that means you're either taking a wide receiver when you shouldn't do because you're reaching for one, or you have to buy one in free agency. Now, Mike Evans, too injury prone, maybe. Don't know. But there ain't many names on free agency that I trust. And to be honest, I don't know whether AJ Brown's the one you want to trust either. It might just be the wide receivers have to stay as they are because you can't fix everything at once.
Yeah, I'm not moving on from Diggs personally. I think you got to remember, despite the age and the fact that he come off an injury, put up 1,000-yard season, and it's what he brings off the field. Like, they all talk about how important he is in the locker room, and I think you don't want to.
We talked about this last week.
Yeah,
we talked about it last week.
You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to lose that locker room presence. I said in the group chat earlier, the only thing I would do at receiver is I would ship Pop Douglas off, and I would bring in another receiver in his place. Who that is, I don't know. I think with AJ Brown, if he's going to cost a second-round pick, it's a risk. He's an excellent receiver and could be a wide receiver one. The hope would be is that being reunited with Mike Vrabel, who knows him inside out, being out of Philadelphia, where he clearly isn't happy, and playing for the team that he has actively said that he supported for most of his life, you'd hope that he would just knuckle down and get on with it and wouldn't cause you any problems. Now, we had this conversation about Stephon Diggs in the offseason about attitude and whether it was a good fit and could it go tits up. It's gone pretty well. Like, it wasn't amazing, but it's gone pretty well. We all would have taken a 1,000-yard season and what he's brought in the locker room as well. So the hope would be if you can flip a second-round pick, which is what the second to last pick of the second round. So you're almost talking a third-round pick for AJ Brown. You get your wide receiver one. You have Brown, Booty, and Diggs, Hollins, Kyle Williams, and Chisholm can be your sixth. So you've just replaced Pop Douglas with AJ Brown. And then suddenly, I don't think you need to do anything else to that receiver room. I think if you look to draft someone, we're in a similar position now with what we've got with Kyle Williams. We used the third-round pick on him last year. He's shown flashes. There's clearly some ability there, but he's not ready to step up and be a wide receiver one. So I think I'd rather take a chance on someone who is proven and just hope that you can get AJ Brown to button it and just get on with what he's being paid to do. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be in that situation. I don't think we'll go out and pay anyone massive. I mean, I've been a big advocate of going to get Alec Pierce, but I don't know whether Indy are going to let him leave the building. Same with Cowboys and George Pickens. So I don't know what the answer is, but I genuinely think if you can just take Douglas out of the team and replace him with a better player, the room looks a lot stronger overall. Do we go and get another tight end? They could argue that. I said in the chat earlier that if Kenyon Sadiq's sitting there in your face at 31, do you pull the trigger? Hunter Henry's a great veteran tight end, but we need to start looking for the future. And if you can add, a pretty damn good young tight end to the room, then maybe that's the option.
We need some beef. We need some beef at the tight end position. Hooper's probably our biggest tight end that we've actually... No, CJ Dickprey is probably the biggest tight end we've got, but he's been a healthy scratch pretty much all season.
Yeah. So I don't
know. That straight away brings up a question to me. What is more important? What is the most important thing right now? Because that number one pick can only go one way.
Exactly.
Do you go on a tight end? Sadiq may not be there by the end of the first round, so that's no good.
I don't think he will.
You need a right tackle. You need an edge defender. You've got premium positions here that need work, that need answering. You can't answer them all in the draft, so you really need to think about. And like I said, it's and I have always said this, it's pointless saying, well, I'll draft this guy here and this guy here, because until free agency's done, you don't know who you need.
Yeah.
And, Kieren said it best. If you're going to get a guard in free agency, then great. That means you don't need to get one in the draft. But there isn't unless you're going for Hendrickson, there isn't an edge defender really that you want to go blowing money on in free agency. So that means you're guaranteed to need one in the draft.
I knew someone was going to bring this comment up. Number 1 pick should be used for Max Crosby.
I've got no problem with it.
It's that number 1 pick, though, is it? It's that number 1 pick. Next year's number 1 pick. They'll want more than they got for Micah Parsons. So you're talking maybe 3 number 1s at least, 2 2s, maybe 3 2s. So you're talking about giving away, as they said in draft day, the team's future. I can't. Much as I would love to have Max Crosby, I can't justify giving away 3 number 1s and 3 number 2s for a guy.
I don't think it'll be 3 number 1s. I don't think it'll be 3. I think you're being mad about that one. I think at most it'll be 2 1s.
I think it would be at least 2 1s and 2 2s at least, because that's what Parsons was.
Yeah, but Parsons is a lot younger.
That adds up. That adds to it as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the Raiders are asking for that and he wants to trade, then that's going to cause a lot of friction because nobody is giving that up for Max Crosby. If you can swing a trade for a first and maybe a first and a third or something, then maybe I think you consider it. But I would certainly do that if it was there. The main edge rusher that would intrigue me would be Owe from the Chargers if they let him out the door. Once again, I think with the Chargers having as much cap space as they do, I don't see why you would let him walk. But if he's available, then you go after him. I'm still of the opinion. I've said this the whole time. I feel like I would use that number 1 pick on a tackle, and then try and bring in a guard in free agency and just keep investing in that offensive line. You can find edge rush help, and I think as long as we can, I know, Karl, you weren't massively keen on this last night, but I think as long as we can re-sign Chase on, you've got one side done. Landry's under contract for another 2 years, and you certainly don't want him playing a full-time role next season because he's not been healthy for a long, long time. There's a durability concern there. So if you can get another edge rusher on the other side to go opposite Chase on with what we've got on the interior, I think we've got enough. We've shown throughout this playoff run that we have generated a lot of pressure. So I think if you put in an Owe or a Hendrickson or someone like that on the other side of Chase on, and Landry can be the third in that rotation with Jennings and Ponder behind them, I think that's enough with what you've got in the interior. So I'm not sure. I mean, you're going to have a decision to make at 31 anyway, or, whether we could even trade back. But
so regarding of how Landry, his 2026 salary is already secure, converted to a signing bonus will free up $9 million in cap space.
Yeah.
37.7 million is our cap space. Now, first things first, Gonzalez, adding to what we're currently paying him anyway, if you're going to give him a decent contract that's sort of towards the top of the market but isn't the top of the market, you've got to take at least 10 if not 15 million of that 37 off the board anyway. So then you're down to sort of like mid-20s at most. Okay, so let's say you take a top guard. What's a top guard going to cost you? 10 million?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking someone for like Batonio, Soimalo, someone, David Edwards,
so you probably
2 year 10 million maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so by the time you've re-signed Gonzalez and you've brought in, say, Batonio, you probably are only going to have somewhere between 10, maybe 14 million max left. Well, that won't get you Hendrickson. So that means definitely you need an edge in the draft. Unless you can find the budget to fix somewhere else, because while Davis and Gonzalez are great as number one, as the first line of the corner room, we noticed when Gonzalez went down early in the season, there's nothing behind him, so we need some cover there. That's some again, you could probably get that in the draft. So, okay, that's fine. Where else do we need free agency investment that you can afford at maybe 14 million max? So when you start actually breaking down what you've got to spend and how much it's going to cost, there's maybe only 3 players you can sign, and if you sign one that's too expensive, that's only 2 players. So we've got to be really careful about where our money's going. It's all well and good saying, we've got nearly 40 million in cap space. Yeah, but the positions we need, it's going to take big chunks away.
So
Gonzalez re-signing would be my first priority.
And there are things we can do to free up cap space, right? So like you can convert stuff. I saw earlier on, like there are several players who can have their contracts adjusted that would free up a lot more cap space. Is that where you're going, Karl?
Yeah, that's what I've got on here on this list right now. Milton Williams, convert to a signing bonuses, will get 17.5 million in cap space. Carlton Davis, if we convert that to a signing bonus, that's 12.6 million in cap space. So already that's 30 million already that you've got there. 9 million for Harold Landry, and then 6.6 for Robert Spillane. That's around about 45 to 50 mil.
And then you can also extend
convert
menu and restructure that contract as well, because he's on a big deal. So you could get we can free up 40, 50 million if we're smart about it.
You can move 40 or 50 million because you sign those, you convert those to signing bonuses. All you're doing is kicking the can down the road. You still got to pay it at some point. It's still got to come out of the cap at some. Now I get it, to the dollar. A dollar this year, next year is maybe only 90 cents. And so if you kick it down the can, you'd kick the can down the road 4 years, it might save you $0.50. Right, fine. But at some point, the kicking that can comes due. Look at the Saints. They kept kicking Breeze's contract down the road. And by the time Breeze retired, they effectively owed him a 4-year, whatever it was, 80 odd million. And so they ended up with 2 years where they couldn't have, they had no salary cap at all. So it's all well and good converting this and converting that, but that just causes problems later.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they deal with it. I don't expect there to be a huge overhaul, because I think realistically you want a handful of players that could make a big difference to the team next year. I mean, if you plug in another edge rusher, an experienced guard, potentially another tackle, another receiver, another tight end, that's just 5 players. Like we could easily be as competitive as we were this year again. I don't think there's an awful lot we need to do. It's just addressing those key areas, whether that's through the draft or through a free agency. I guess, Nick, like for you, because I know you've done your draft evaluations already, and I'm still in the early stages of mine, and I've not got onto these position groups yet. But in your opinion, are you better off taking a tackle at the back end of 1 and an edge rusher at the back end of 2, or are you better off going to edge rusher in 1 and a tackle at the back end of 2? Because it seems to me
every simulation I've done for the past 4 weeks, I would say, because I started off doing various different ones and doing edge at 1 and then a tackle in 2. But as the database on PFF gets updated and players move up the board and it changes the simulations. And so now I have found in the last 4 weeks, if you don't take, say, for example, Monroe Freeling at 31 or trade with the Jets down, which I have done quite a few times, trade with the Jets down to 33 to pick up an extra pick and still pick up Freeling at 33. If you do that, there are still some good edges at the end of 2. Joshua Josephs is there. Anthony Lucas is there. Whereas if you do it the other way round and you maybe take, say, Akeem Messidor or Mason Thomas, your tackles at the end of 2 are not good enough. So for me, based on what I can see now, I would be taking Monroe Freeling at the end of 1 or beginning of 2, and then Josephs or Lucas at the end of 2, beginning of 3.
Yeah, just to let you know, I'm on over the cap right now, and the Patriots have got 42.7 million in cap space currently as it stands. So, Dougie's put that depends on free agency, what position is available, best player available. We'll have to see. We kind of got distracted now, so if we can try and go back to the game. Look, it weren't the greatest of games. Seattle completely ravished us. Drake Maye got sacked 6 times in this game. That he is the most sacked quarterback in the history of the playoffs in the NFL since the merger. Not great. A lot of people turn around, and also we now hold a record that really no one wants. Despite the fact we've won 6 Super Bowls, we have now lost 6 of them as well. So we're 50-50 now in Super Bowls.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of people saying they'd rather be 6-6 in Super Bowls than 0-4, right? Like Buffalo. So
yeah.
Like we still have 6 wins. That's important.
You got to be in it to win it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you got to remember as well, those first 2, right? The first 2 that we lost out of them, 85 Bears, generational team, right? Like people still talk about that team 41 years later. And then Brett Favre's Green Bay in the 90s, also an outstanding team. So, and that was before the Patriots became the Patriots, really, wasn't it? Like, it's kind of Brady, Belichick onwards that the franchise transcended. It's similar, like Nick's a Man City fan, right? And I'm sure, there are some Man City fans like Nick that do remember the old days and have supported the team since the old days. But most people now attribute all of City's success in their existence to what's happened since 2012. So I think that's part and parcel of it. So yes, we've lost 6 Super Bowls, but 2 of them were in a completely different era. And I'd rather have 6 wins on the board than none. And there are still double-digit amount of teams in the NFL that have never won one. So So
yeah, it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet for the season. I think we can safely say that this season has been a whirlwind for us. Yeah. Weren't expected to get this far. The team have done so well, and 2 things can be true at the same time. We wouldn't have made it to the playoffs if it hadn't been for Drake Maye, but we wouldn't have got to the Super Bowl had it not been for our defense.
Yes.
And that's why the NFL is called a team game. This is why it's a team game.
Yeah.
But it seems like now everything was all quarterback centric is now flipped over to the defensive side of the ball again. Are we having a new change in the way the NFL works now? I got absolutely no idea. I know the quarterback play has gotten worse and worse and worse over time. It is what it is. Dougie said, a Vikings fan at me is trying to give me grief about losing 6. I just laughed and said, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Isn't that the franchise that lost 4 Super Bowls in 10 years? Correct me if I'm wrong. In the 70s? Yeah.
I saw that. Sorry, Karl, but I saw that Bills fan on your Twitter feed.
Which one? Which one? There are lots of them mongoloids on my page.
I know. But the one that was going on about the Super Bowl being a fake Super Bowl because it didn't have Allen in it, and Josh Allen should have been in it based on 2 reports.
What? And I responded back with what? You got some sort of fucking level of entitlement now, yeah? Get out of here.
I was with my mates last night. He's messaged into the show a couple of times, and he was sat there last night at one point. He was like, I guarantee you, if Josh Allen was playing in this game, right, he'd have thrown a couple of touchdowns and he'd have played a lot better than Drake Maye. And I was like, it's a fair point, but you've got to get to the game in the first place for that to be a realistic thing to say. And he laughed it off and said, yeah, fair enough. It was all very well saying coulda, woulda, coulda, but you've got to get to the game in the first place.
Oh dear! But that's all I've seen on the group chat all day. Not group chat on my X page. It's just Bill's Mafia just coming in and chatting absolute drivel on regarding.
I don't think Buffalo would have beaten that Seattle team.
No one would. Even Denver's saying, "Oh yeah, we got conged out of the AFC Championship game. It should have been made." Bo Nix would have been fucking lit up the same way Drake May did, even with that offensive line. He would have got lit up.
And that's when you have to look at like the rightful team won.
Yeah.
Seattle had a tremendous season with a real identity. Were probably the most rounded and complete team in the NFL this year. Despite the fact they were maybe a bit disrespected coming into the season, their win total was only like similar to ours again. Like I think it may be been a little bit higher, but like obviously they missed out on the postseason last year, and they were, as we said, around 50, 60 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. And they've gone on to be the best and most complete team in the league this year, incredibly well coached. And that's not just Mike McDonald, but shout out to fellow Brit Adam Dirty as well, the first British coach to win a Super Bowl. So, that's great for this country to see that happen. And ultimately, credit where credit's due, right? Seattle fully deserve that. And do you know what? I've got no issues with Seattle as a franchise. Like, there are some franchises where you have the banter and we take the piss out of the Jets, and there's the rivalry with Buffalo. And obviously, we've got history with the Steelers and the Colts. And, there are always teams that you just actively have a bit of disdain for. But Seattle are not one of them for me. They're a well-supported team. They're incredibly loyal to their team. They've got an identity. They play a great style. They're incredibly well coached. And they're not an unlikable team at all. So, for a neutral, I could see why they would be an appealing proposition to follow in the Super Bowl. Obviously, we wanted us to win, but they were just way better than us. And as Dougie said, they were the best team this year. And it was just like Philly were last year, right? Philly last year, elite defense, Saquon Barkley almost breaking the rushing record. They had an identity, and they were the best team in the league, and they absolutely poleaxed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
There was another Chiefs fan here giving it all that regarding of how Drake May sucked in 3 quarters in that game. This guy was so short-sighted that someone piped back at him saying, "I'm sorry, but then Patrick Mahomes had 44 total yards in 3 quarters against the Eagles in your last Super Bowl." People who throw stones don't live in glass houses. Just stay out of it. Just absolutely stay out of it. At the end of the day, we got there. No one else did, but unfortunately, it was just a game too far for us, and that's all that's all we can say. That is all we can say at the end of the day. Look, we came this far. We've done so well. We've still got a lot of work to do. It now all falls on the front office. Do they be coy and simple with this, or do they say, "Nope, this season is still, although we didn't win we got to a Super Bowl, it's still a failure. We still have a lot of work to do." This is what we're going to find out from the front office, how aggressive they want to be.
Yeah,
we're going to find that out.
I've just looked now. Obviously, it's way too early, and people are already trying to make predictions for next year. And I think the last 2 years have shown that you could not make predictions at this stage, even heading into free agency in the draft. Until that is done with, I don't think any form of prediction can be deemed accurate. Apart from maybe you can discount the bottom feeders because they're just shit every year. But
you can't say that. Because the Browns got the easiest strength of schedule in the NFL. I expect them to make the Super Bowl.
But we know
if you want to play this game with me, sweet, I'll come back with the same level of energy.
Browns and Jets
Ollie.
Be bad, but we've shown this year that if you get things right in 1 year, you can turn it around very quickly. Washington done it the year before. Cincinnati done it in 20 and 21. They went from picking number 1 in the draft. Next year, they were in the Super Bowl. So it can happen. Interestingly, looking at the betting market for next year, Seattle have understandably opened up favourites. That is pretty typical when a team wins it. But we have been priced at 18 to 1, which is the same as the San Francisco 49ers. I think that is probably around about right. We're a shorter price than Denver. But considering we were 75 to 1 or whatever it was, 66 to 1 this year, it shows that there's a little bit of respect, even though we're supposed to have the 6th strongest strength of schedule next year. But there is a belief in us that we will be somewhat decent again next year. And look, I don't, realistically, are we going to win 14 games again next year? Probably not. But we'll probably, there's a chance we could still win enough. It's just people that want to go ahead and say, "Oh, well, they're not going to be any good next year." Unless you can look at that team and think they're in a complete rebuild and they've got a long way to go, But people thought that about us this year. There should be no prediction at this point unless you're a Jets and Browns fan where you just have no hope whatsoever.
No, they should do. But that's not how the NFL works. You don't just have to have an easy schedule. You need to have coaching. You need to have a great quarterback. And sadly, the bottom three have either got one or multiple things missing out of that. Just to let you know as well, the Bills have opened up as favourites to make the Super Bowl from the AFC side of things, which I'm sorry, I'm struggling to get my head around. I'm just struggling to get my head around.
Baltimore are short again, and I don't know about that. I mean, I like Jesse Minter as a coach. I think their defense will be really good next year, but yeah, I don't know. It's just so hard to sit here a year in advance and work out like what's going to happen. But I don't think you can discount. You can have opinions. Everyone's welcome to an opinion, but you can't discount anything really, because we've just shown that if you have one incredible offseason, you can turn a corner very quickly. So yeah, the next few months are going to be interesting because we're going to have the free agency and the draft. It's all attention on that now. So yeah, that's when Nick's time takes over, and I've already finished 2 position groups on my draft evaluations. I've got quite a few more to go, but I've done quarterbacks and running backs. I'm looking forward to diving into more, seeing how that lines up with Nick's analysis, and ultimately, like, you can be disappointed with what happened with the Super Bowl, but in a week's time, everyone's just going to forget about it, right? Seattle will celebrate. And we'll be looking at, okay, well, who can we sign in free agency? Who can we draft? Who are we re-signing ourselves? Mm-hmm. And the focus just switches, and that's just part and parcel of professional sports.
As Vrabel said, we're 307 days into this rebuild, and not bad. Not about to make a Super Bowl first year. Go on.
The comment he made where he said, "I'm disappointed. The team are disappointed." But it's okay to be disappointed. We're disappointed together. We're a team. We move forward together. And I think that is quite it's back to this point of Vrabel has just been a breath of fresh air. I mean, I wasn't going to bring this up. I am going to now because I'm starting to go down there. So what Belichick and his fucking piece of stuff did with her wearing that T-shirt, he can go and fuck off. I haven't got time for him anymore. The fact that I'm going to go and watch him in August is not the point. But yeah, just grow up, mate. You're 70 odd years old. Stop being a dickhead. Because you know what, Vrabel has been a breath of fresh air. He's what the Patriots have needed. We are better now than we were under Belichick for a few years, and you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, we are in such a good space now. We got the hire absolutely spot on. I commend Robert Kraft for making that difficult decision to fire Mayo after 1 year after it didn't work. It quite clearly didn't work, and he could have given him another year, but he made that decision to bring in Vrabel, and he's won Coach of the Year and taken us to a Super Bowl in 1 year and completely changed the culture of the team and put us in a whole new landscape. So absolutely nailed that decision. We're in really good hands for the foreseeable future, not just with him as the head coach, but the staff he's assembled underneath him as well. And that is why I'm confident we'll continue to be competitive over the next few years, because he has laid an incredible foundation for us to build upon. And the hope is that we'll just continue to get better. And maybe we won't be here next year talking about another Super Bowl. But, he gives us an opportunity, you'd think, over the next few years that we might be back.
2 last things we'll do before we get on out of here. We're happy with the team and that, but this podcast has come a long, long way over the last couple of years. 2 back-to-back seasons of 4-13 has been absolutely shambolic. This is the first season we're going to end this on a high now, where, you know what, it's been a joy this season to not just cover the Patriots in the sense, because obviously we're winning. We made the postseason, we made a flipping Super Bowl of all things. but I've had to do it with three amazing people. Obviously, DJ is still over in the States right now. He's probably watching right now. Wish you all the best, mate. And obviously, Kieren and Nick is with me tonight. I can't thank you any more, lads. Our work's not complete. This is just the start of it. But yeah, this season has been amazing to be covering the Patriots with you guys. So thank you so much. Couldn't do it. We couldn't do this any other way. And potentially we may have big plans for the new season incoming, but we are going to keep that under wraps for the time being. For now, this is our last show I'll probably say for at least a couple of weeks. We'll take some time off. We'll have a rest, let the dust settle, and then crack straight on into free agency at the back end of February. And then we'll see where we go from there. And obviously once that's over and done with, we start with the draft. Going for all key positions. Each episode there'll be a different position we'll be going for. So we might could potentially do like 2 shows a week, maybe potentially, by the time we get through all the key positions that we're actually after. So, but we'll
and just obviously, echo your thoughts, Karl. It's been great to be part of this. My second full season with the pod, and we've got a great little dynamic going. Been really enjoying the preview shows we've done this year, Karl. Whilst it's been a bit frustrating at times that a few other teams have let us down and we've not managed to have a guest, I think every single guest we have had on has added something to the show. It's been great to do them and come on on the Tuesday and talk about our team winning way more games than we expected. The positivity has been great. We've enjoyed everything. And like Dougie said, it's almost like he didn't want the season to end, but ultimately it does have to end at some point. And I appreciate people like Dougie and Delusional Patriots fan and all our regular listeners that often tune in and contribute with their comments. There's always a few new people every week as well. So just thank you to everyone who's stuck with us this season. And as Karl said, we've got a few irons in the fire. We won't reveal what they are just yet, but we're going to continue to grow this podcast. The vision's there. And hopefully we can enjoy another good season next year together.
Nick, you got anything to say?
No, I mean, I could, but I'd just be repeating what you guys have both said. So, I fully agree. It's been really good. It was nice in recent weeks to have Luke back for a few episodes, him doing us a favor and helping out. So appreciate his input as well. It's been really good. I think even the positivity of this season, not on the front end of the pod and what everyone else sees here, but just the behind the scenes, the chats among us, and how so many more ideas are being thrown around in the chat, and there's far more fluency in what's going on because people are engaged more, and it's a lot easier when you're feeling more positive. So well done to Vrabel for bringing positivity to the Patriots touchback as well. I bet he didn't think he would do that, but he has done. I've enjoyed it.
He's given it back to 3 of us. I think there's one other person who's still trying to wiggle his way out of it, but we know who he is because he's not on tonight, but it is what it is.
Let's just say the podcast has developed a lot in the last year because this year has been overwhelming positivity and we've enjoyed the ride so much. We've developed the podcast. Last year was, if you listened to our show last year, if anyone watching right now has been with us for the long term, you'll know that last year was basically just slagging off Elliot Wolf and Vidarian Lowe probably about 5 times a show.
To be fair, this year has been slagging off Vidarian Lowe as well.
We still are. That will never change. That will never, ever change.
We've come a long way from Lowe and Wolf bashing to where we are now. Let's just say that.
You just say lone wolf bash.
Lowe and Wolf bashing.
Oh, I thought you said lone wolf. Oh, dear. All right.
Well, don't forget DeMontre Jacobs as well, the cracker.
Oh, he's gone now anyway. No one cares. Okay. Listen, we are going to get on out of here. What an amazing season it's been. Thank you to Nick, thank you to Kieren, thank you to DJ, thank you to Luke, thank you to all of the people that have viewed, that have liked, and that have listened to us. Listen, we've had a great season, but in the words of a certain Italian manager, Carlo Ancelotti, we've done well, but we can do better. We can do better. So strap yourself in. This podcast is only going to go up from here. So thank you to everyone that's been watching. Thank you to everyone that's been listening throughout the season. Make sure you smash the like button on the way out. Gronk, spike the subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well. We are going to take a little bit of a break now for at least a couple of weeks, and then we return February. If there is any news that breaks from now until whenever we're back, then if it's significant, then either it will be an emergency show or it will be a upload of some kind. So yeah, we have to figure some of that out. We would talk a little bit about that fucking horrendous halftime performance, if anybody watched it. But I will lose quite a few IQ points if I actually try to do it. So we're not going to bother.
Henceforth known as Very Bad Bunny. Yeah, that was. One thing I'd like to say to the NFL before we go is there is another genre you can pick for a Super Bowl halftime show other than R&B. There are plenty of other genres.
R&B. That was an R&B.
Green Day were good.
Green Day could have done the whole show. It is like Bad Bunny is Latin R&B or Latin hip hop, whatever you want to call it.
It's called reggaeton. That's basically what it is. I have heard of the music genre before. It's reggaeton. That's what it is. That's why it's so unknown to us.
Tony Pasta. So
I would say at least the dancers were good.
Bad
Some of the dancers were good.
Bad Bunny should stick to doing cameos in WWE rather than doing that because that was poor. Yeah, Green Day would have been miles better. I just want to change. I don't want some. I don't listen to a lot of chart music anyway because I think like majority of it is trash. But just something different that can get people like going a little bit. Like it's just.
Well, the problem you have is Apple Music. Dougie's got there before me. The problem you have is that the NFL signed a deal with Apple Music. For the halftime show because it used to be Pepsi, and they signed a 10-year deal. Now Apple Music have a deal in them individually themselves with Jay-Z's label. Is it Rock Nation? I think
Rock Nation,
or Rock something.
Yeah, Rock
Nation. Anyway, so it's Jay-Z. Anybody under Jay-Z's label is likely to be considered for the halftime show, and because otherwise Apple Music, if it's under Jay-Z's label, they don't have to pay as much money to the band as if it's somebody they have to get from outside. So until this deal with Apple Music expires, the chances are you're going to get a lot more artists who are under Jay-Z's label. So you only need to look at who's under the Rock Nation label as to what you're getting for the halftime show over the next 5 years.
It could be something pretty bad then. We'll just have to, I'll look on it and find out. But, okay, we will call it a night. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. Well done, Patriots. Fantastic season. But we fell just slightly short. And you know what? I'll play this bloody track I play for during the preview and that. This is our montage. It's not a montage, but it's our final video that we usually play. So thank you everyone who's been watching. From one final time this season, lads. We all we got.
We all we need.
Go Patriots. See you soon, guys.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Here we go again.
thought we'd die from the start. Still waiting on our failure, but we raised the bar. Scraping at the gate where legends get crowned. Bowling our sights, we closing in now. Keep the cake, it ain't a party. Had our sweet 16, chasing the Lombardi. One step closer to dream. Yeah, it's been a while. Still the best in the game. First Brady, now Maye. Put respect on the name. Helmet low, breath fog. We do this in the cold. Yeah, we beat the Broncos and you watch it unfold. They see the street, now the tone done changed. But the receipts don't lie. Got you looking insane. Now we pressing the line. Bow bound, feel the shift in the air. It's our time to shine. Can't deny this run. You thought it was the end. We don't talk about losses, busy stacking the wins. Every snap, pressure pack, we built for the challenge. Mike started this year and exposed all the talent. When we make it to the big stage, you know it's on sight. Ready, set, hunt, gotta prepare for the hike. From Foxborough, grit near the field at the bowl. Now the door off the hinges, watch us capture the goal. They said the run was done, said the window was closed. Started from the bottom, watch the future unfold. At the gates of the bowl, you thought it was the end. We don't talk about losses, too busy stacking the wins. We all we got, we all we need. Shout it from the stand, same chance, same drive. Yeah, we do it for the fans. Now we pressing the line. Roll round, feel the shift in the air. It's our time to shine. You watch us in the AFC and teams today. Time to bring the fire. We got haters to shame. Let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go.
Warrior! Come on!